welcome to the Vegan Stew. I am Kayla. Helene is off tonight, but I do have the Vegan Stew crew with me, which I will introduce and bring them in. Marla.
Yay.
So, Sovereign, Kelly, and Dr. Shayla is here.
Hi.
Yay! And today's topic, or first, our sponsor is BV Kids. So thank you for BV Kids for sponsoring our show. And our topic today is, do all vegans need to be friends? So that's what we'll be talking about today. And first, I know we start off with news. So does anyone have any news? Or Marla, do you have any news to share?
I usually bring something, and this week I have no news.
Okay, that's
I
okay.
know that there are things, but I don't know what they are. So
That's all right.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So we'll jump into our topic. Do all vegans need to be friends? Who wants to start?
Oh, I say no.
Or who says yes, who says no?
Marla's got the quick answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't waste a lot of time contemplating that one. I haven't thought that, ever, but I've been vegan for a long time. But I think, since the pandemic, especially, it's become very stark to me who I do and do not want to associate with. Obviously, before there was a very firm, unambiguous line in the sand about bigotry, racism, sexism, treating people in terrible ways. But just generally, I guess, I think that if you're friends with someone and you're spreading disinformation, they're acting like assholes, sorry. I think that you do a disservice to the animals by being quote unquote friends with them, because I think if people lump us together and we actually don't publicly disavow that person, if we can, I think that harms all of us, including especially the animals. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I'm personally struggling with that because I'm involved with something right now that is kind of like a sort of shared resource for any vegan. And so the people that I kind of disassociated with during the pandemic because of their beliefs in vaccines and everything, I have to sort of resolve how much I want to communicate with them. I know I have to be part of this project, but I definitely don't want it to make it seem like I find that behavior acceptable.
Sure.
So it's been a real struggle for me, because these are people who I've not seen in years or even talked to in years, so it's been very, very difficult. And I myself personally have even kind of gone outside of the vegan community to look for friends in my own age group, just people who can identify with things that I'm personally going through in my life, right? And so I thought I can't find it within my group locally. Obviously I have it online with all of you, but locally, sometimes you do want that connection, and haven't been able to find it. And so I'm just looking at outside of that vegan community, to see, how, now that I've been vegan 9 years, how I don't, I really all my friends are vegan, right? How easy is it to make vegans at 48 non-vegans, but under different circumstances, not just that shared bond of veganism, but people who are, because I'm personally going through perimenopause, so people who are also going through that as well, that I can identify with and talk to about it and not feel like I'm going crazy, right? So
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, like one of our commenters said, vegans like the general population is diverse. So, as with anything, all of my friends are certainly not vegan. And there's, we could be friends. And you're not going to be friends with everybody who is vegan either for, a number of reasons. Even, one of the things I think we've touched on in a past topic is that sometimes there are even some folks in the vegan community who, care strongly about animals, but not so much humans. And that will play a part too in what people think and how they treat other humans. Chips that way.
You're kind of breaking up, Shayla, but you're saying great stuff.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my
No, you're muted.
Oh, no, I can't hear.
Uh-oh. Can't hear her. Oh no.
I'll keep track of the comments as well as they come up.
Thanks, Kelly.
Vegans, like the general population, is diverse. One cannot get along with everyone, and I think that's like a real big miscommunication. Like when people talk about like vegans, it's like this group,
Yeah, right.
Entity of that. We're just vegans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can't. I don't. Just to kind of actually piggyback on what Marla and what Dr. Shayla said, you really can't, because just like you said, you are a advocate and fighter for humans. I'm sorry, for animals, but not for humans. That's not going to fly. You can't differentiate the two. Also, you have very pompous vegans. You have vegans that, which is well known throughout like the African American community, or ones that, at least in my experience, ones that are apparently more African than I am, and I am Nigerian. I don't know how much you can be, okay, but they will try to. It's good that you've gotten in touch and reached back with your roots, but let's not overstep, because I'm not doing that with you. And you are, I've come from all types, from militant vegans to within every population who would be way too aggressive, and that aggressiveness turns off people who are future vegans or those who may not know and want to learn. And in that case, no, you can't be friends with them. You can't be friends with all vegetarian. It's a doggy. I'm like squirrel. You really can't. And it's okay not to be. We as vegans, we can't kumbaya with all vegans. We can't kumbaya with non-vegans. We can't kumbaya with people in general that are not in the same mindset or could be harmful. Just because you eat plants doesn't mean that your mindset is that one of love and light as well. So no, I can't be friends with all vegans. I can't be friends with all people. I'm also an introvert, so it's like I can't be friends with people. But in relating to the topic, no, you can't, and you shouldn't feel that you have to because that person is vegan. Just like, I don't feel like I have to befriend every single goth person. I don't have to befriend every single person who's Black. Like it's and that's okay. You can find a common ground with everyone, but you're not going to find a common ground with everyone who is either your race, your gender, whatever that you may believe in. So it's a no. You can't be friends with all vegans. We don't all have to be friends with each other. I love you guys. That's different.
Yeah, and Sovereign. And I think I figured out the mute button here. But like more to what Sovereign is saying. There have been some companies, and they'll have like one Black person on their board or on their committee, and try to make these huge decisions and think that all Black people think this way. You know, and you can't have that either. You know, one Black person doesn't speak for all Black people. And
Yep.
one vegan doesn't speak for all vegans, you know, kind of the same breath,
Yep.
because none of us are a monolith. We are all, you know, a
Right.
diverse people. We all have diverse thoughts. And I think where I got cut off last time, what I was talking about was even humanity and humanism of it. You know, you have some vegans who are all about animals and all about, you know, the rights of animals, but then they even sometimes forget that human quality, and to treat humans too as kindly as we treat as we desire to treat animals, and so, you know, that can play a part too, yeah, in veganism.
I am really curious what Kayla you have to say, but I wanted to add one little thing to this, is that a lot of times when people are proud misanthropes, I mean, I understand not being all up with people. I'm not all up with people myself, but celebrating catastrophes against humankind, whether it's like a natural disaster or, you know, like there are people who, and I've done my best to, you know, separate myself from that kind of mentality of people who are like, oh, good, more carnists have died because there was an earthquake over there. There is that, sadly, that mentality. The people who are primarily, whose deaths and suffering is primarily celebrated, are Black and brown, indigenous, poor people of color generally, because they're the ones who are the most susceptible to natural disasters and that sort of thing. So I find it not only appalling just because, you know, we're vegan, we're supposed to be compassionate, we're supposed to be empathetic, whether or not you're like an optimist about humanity is kind of beside the point. You don't celebrate suffering. That's like antithetical to veganism, you know, even if you'd rather hug cows than hug people. I get that totally. But one of the things that I heard somebody say a few years ago, who's Latinx vegan, is just like that when people like show off about, you know, how badass they are by how misanthropic they are, there's actually an undercurrent of racism there that they're not acknowledging or realizing. So Kayla, what are your thoughts? I'm curious.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from everyone is, you know, we're really all diverse people, even as vegans. And I completely agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree that we are all diverse and we may, you know, have differences, or we may still find, you know, not to say like also not, you know, not want to be friends with others.
Yeah.
I can certainly relate to that in a way of, actually, yeah, making friends or even dating. You know, there's such a small pool of vegans that, you know, I think a lot of my friends honestly are not vegan. I don't think I've even ever dated a vegan because it's been like, you know, one, it's, you know, there's a small population of us, so there's not a lot of us. But
and
I
more
also,
women if you're hetero, right?
yes, right, true. That's true too. Yeah. And I feel like too that I've never wanted to just like ignore the other, you know, just because someone's vegan, you know, say like what is it, like judge them for that decision, right? Of like, well, I'm not even gonna date you because you're not vegan. But then when I've opened my eyes, I'm like, but there's all these other good qualities of this person. I can't just not date them because they're not vegan. And hopefully they kind of see why, and I just kind of educate them and, you know, hope that they kind of see why. And I think that's the same with friends, is I've always been just kind of like, you know, this is, you know, just kind of educating them, but not pushing it on them, that kind of thing. But yeah.
I think that's much smarter, like a kind, smart, together, compassionate person who just hasn't been educated about veganism. Any day, over an asshole vegan any day. Because at the end of the day, you'll be stuck with an asshole vegan, you know.
Right.
You know, if this person will listen to you, have an open mind, be considerate, and that sort of thing, you're just, the relationship is on much better ground, you know. So.
For sure. I feel like I'd be unhappy with someone that's vegan and like totally different than me. And like not a nice person.
Now that you say it, I'm thinking back, and I can think of probably, I don't know, a half dozen different people in my life who I've known over these years who have stayed in relationships because their partner's vegan and they're just afraid of going back out there. And I'm not talking about like abusive situations or whatever, but like, you know, maybe there's incompatibility and unhappiness, but they're not, you know, breaking up and trying something that might make them happier because they're afraid to lose the vegan thing. You know?
Yeah.
And I understand that, you know, but at the same time, I have enough friends who are single moms who are no longer, you know, with the father of their kids, who just say that their lives are so much easier and better not having that person in their lives, that I don't.
That is true. That is true. That is true. I think it's easier. I agree with Kayla in regards to, like, you know, anybody that I have dated was not vegan to start with, but they were curious. And they would embrace that, or they would want to know more. And I would go ahead and, you know, share with them things. Now, there are certain things as a vegan that I cannot handle, which is the smell of cooked meat. I can't. And in any relationship that I've been, it hasn't been them not understanding. It's been for other things that have gone wrong. But I've had that not be much of an issue. I do have friends that are vegetarian. I have friends that are vegan. I have friends that are meat eaters, and they know my stance. You respect me, we're going to respect each other. Thinking it's cute to hold bacon in your mouth or make a comment like we hear all the time, bacon to everything, will get that meme Denzel Washington on the play where he slams the door in that guy's face. That's what I do. Okay. Because it's like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this, and it's not cute. It's not cute. But it's just like everyone has just said, it's like within all groups, you can't be friends with everybody. Not everybody is going to find, when you do find those that are like you, where everybody's radar goes off and we're like, oh my God, you're there, you exist, come here. You know, we're just like, we love each other. But even touching upon the basis of, Marla, what you said, which is those that will laugh in the face of natural disasters. The comments that I was hear in regards to what was happening in Turkey and Syria when those earthquakes hit, I cut off friends. I said, you're showing your colors. It takes that one moment, one event, something to happen where people will show themselves. And just like they say, when they show who they are, that's who they are. Believe them. I don't need to have 75,000 friends. I can go with 10. That's it. You know, but you can't.
Quality over quantity. Right?
Exactly. You can't look at me as a person of color, as a marginalized group, and be okay with what's going on and make those comments because you're ignorant. You can't look at what's happening in regards to trans rights being taken away, what's going on with the LGBTQI community, with me being one of those individuals where trans and non-binary people, our lives are in danger. We are trying to find safe spaces. And you're like, oh, well, you know, it's not really a real thing and pronouns this and this is ridiculous. You can kick rocks. I don't bite my tongue off whatever cliff that you want to fall off. I'm not doing this with you anymore. Because you don't care about my life.
They don't have your back.
Correct.
You know, when it comes to child, you're in trouble, you know where they stand. You know?
Yeah. And you can see where they stand with the rest of humanity. You can see where they stand with children. you know, laws are being passed, ones that are absolutely horrendous. And if someone's like, well, you know, I mean, yeah, it's bad, but nope, no. Mm-mm. You know, you cannot have, let's just really be clear. You cannot ignore intersectionality. You can't.
Right.
You can't, especially as a vegan. We are very progressive, but not all of us are.
Right.
You know, so no, you don't have to be. I used to be that way where I'm like, okay, well, I'll be friends with everybody. It's different when you're neurodiverse, you know, neurodivergent. But at the point is like, it's okay to cut people off that don't have your best
Yeah.
interest, don't have the best interest of other things that matter to everyone that affect all of us.
Right.
So
I think that's one of the things that we've talked about before is the importance of being three-dimensional and having other interests and hobbies and passions and that sort of thing, that like when we get too closed off in our little, like, what good am I doing if I only were friends with vegans? You know, like, what good am I doing if I close myself off to the carnists in the world? You know, like I do have, like Sovereign said, I do have pretty strict boundaries around, you know, eating animals around me, but I don't see a lot of benefit to only communicating with it, like becoming a separatist, you know. It just doesn't make a
Yeah.
lot of sense for the
Yeah,
animals
and
either.
you turn, a lot of people off too. A lot of us in the work that we do, I can't say that, oh yeah, I'm only gonna have vegans in my practice or in my office. That would not, that wouldn't be good for a number of reasons. But I'm always happy to share why, it's important for people to eat more plants, even if they don't decide to go on and be fully vegan, but even if they just at least get that knowledge and learn about it and improve their health even just a little bit, then for me, I feel like I've done what I've set out to do. And not that everybody has to be one and the same and think one and the same.
And
Absolutely.
especially as we age as well, right? Like this is just what I personally am going through, right? Like thinking about when I was vegan 9 years ago and I was such a hardcore activist and I only wanted vegan friends that were as hardcore activists as me, who like thought the same as me, who hated everyone like me and blah, 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 right? And then I matured my priorities just based on my own experiences of what I've gone through over the years and what I have, found to be important or what's been put on me, even things don't, like death and whatnot, of family members and of, like changes like what's important to you and what you need in your life, right? And it's just like your friends growing up, like, a lot at a time you stop being friends with your childhood friends because you evolve and you don't have like those connections anymore, right? And so you need a certain connection. If you're not getting it from like your vegan community, if it's not there or you're just not connecting with anyone, like are you supposed to just suffer in silence, because you just only want to be surrounded by vegans, right? And that's where I personally am. It's like I'm not finding that community and I need this community right now to help me. So I'm going to try to find it elsewhere. Sorry, I see Ray's putting some comments up. Zero tend to be progressive and infighting is, for better or worse, a feature of people designing our future potential instead of clinging to well-defined paths.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I think there are characteristics that are, we would assume would unite, us, but like a lot of times there are so many different subcultures that people are interested in. It doesn't mean that, say I'm into painting, that I'm good. Why would I like all other painters? Like, why would that make any sense? We're discerning, or we should be, and I think the flip side of this is, we do need to figure out what our friend intimacy needs are, and whether they're being met, and whether we have the relationships in our lives that we want from vegan friends. And if not, like, try to figure out ways to cultivate that, because I feel like it is so important, when we're younger, we really value friendship. But it is such a, it's like water off of a duck. It's so easy to make friends when you're young and you're in school together and you have, activities together. And then when you get older, and maybe or maybe not, you have kids, but you've got a job and you've got all these other adult responsibilities, it gets harder and harder to not only maintain friendships, but develop new ones. That's really hard, so I think figuring out different avenues to cultivating friendships, and I think, like what Sovereign was saying, you don't necessarily need 10 million friends, like I know myself, of like, I've always been someone who had like a bestie, and then like 4 or 5 close friends. And that's all I need. I know when I'm lacking that, and I know when I've got too many superficial friendships, So how about you guys? How do you go about finding friends within the vegan community? I guess is a question to ask.
I just recently joined like a friend app.
What is it? A friend app?
An app, yeah, like looking for friends, and you can create like groups. So I just started creating groups looking for, like, I'm very introverted, so I created a group called like Introverted Vegans, and I'm just waiting to see if it gets populated. If anyone joins, right? And like vegan thrifters, because I love thrifting. I did like, I'm trying to think of what other groups but I created like certain groups and thought, okay, if it resonates with someone, they'll join, and either we connect or we don't, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I just thought I would take the initiative to do it.
That's awesome. And
it's so hard to make friends.
It is hard, and it's awkward putting yourself out there. You don't want to seem like the neighborhood creeper. It's like, hey, you want to be my friend? It does get awkward.
I was saying, I don't think that I've ever actively looked for, just vegan friends. Like, where can I find vegan friends? Now, I've certainly been a triathlete. Just the sport itself tends to somehow attract more people who are vegan. I think because you're doing so much, you're wanting to be your healthiest anyway. And so I've met a lot of vegan friends within the triathlon community. But it's not that I was, set out to find a vegan friend, if you will. And I find like, I think like Sovereign mentioned, even other, commonalities that I tend to find friend groups from, like my sorority, or because of the work that I do, other, Black female physicians, or, things of that nature. Then I tend to find friends from other commonalities. But just, now that I think about it, in the triathlon world, I've probably met more of my vegan friends there.
That's really interesting. I like that approach. Is less pressure about, okay, this is the community I'm targeting, so I'm going to find my people who have interest. So instead of that, you're going to these broader things that are passions of yours, and finding commonalities and finding people, I think that's a really smart approach.
I apologize. You're hearing little ones in the background. But I kind of, growing up for me, I was always shy. I had a lot of anxiety because I was bullied so much. And of course, one of the things that you come to terms with, or you find out, is that when you're on the spectrum, you can't really decipher your friends from your enemies. So people would bully, but I wouldn't register that, and I would still be kind. And I couldn't.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Does that mean like people being like sarcastic Like, oh, you're my best friend, aren't you? That kind of thing.
That and okay, when I was going to school, everybody would do what was considered with me is the pat on the head. Because they would be like, "Aw, you're so cute," and I'm like, "No, I'm processing whether you're friend or foe." Like I didn't know what the difference was, but because just naturally being nice, it wasn't until I actually had a friend. It was always the ones that were the quirky ones. Like we were the quirky ones. We were, to quote the craft, we are the weirdos, mister. We always found each other. And they would pick up some cues before I would. And they would be there to protect. It is not that I needed defending all the time, but you're learning to navigate through a neurotypical world. And one of the things that we lost Marla, I don't know where she went. Finding friends, it wasn't necessarily any more a search because like I am an introvert, and Kelly, that group is a fantastic idea. When I started doing Gotham Raw, I kind of found friends. Been in the gossip culture since I was really young, and have a friend still from several of my friends still from high school. And from, but I mean like select. It's like if I had to say best bet, you're talking about 4 people from being little. But in terms of true friends, now that I'm knowing what the definition of true friends are, they all seem to fall within the gossip culture. And then it was just by my craft that we would click and we would talk more because I was engaging. And I would engage with anybody who leaves a comment. And it's just really cool to see how a friendship can develop from that. You'll have, like, I've had some that are not vegan, but they're within the scene, or they want to know more, or something like that. And it's like, with masking, you present how you have been programmed to present, which is outgoing and that type of thing. But it's hard because you are very reserved, you're shy, you're introverted. But when that person actually can get to know you without judgment, that's when you find the friend. So it has literally been through my food creation where I've actually found a small group. Marla, my love for bats, it has been ride or die ever since, because that's what it meant, you coming on. And the first thing that Marla did was like, look, it's a bat bag. And I just squealed. And Helen was like, all right, y'all, later.
We can bond over bats.
So like having like a common thing, and then, just absolutely having a joy meeting Kelly because she is part of the community. And it's just like, it's great to find other people within, the LGBTQ community to talk to, and ones that are into things such as Lord of the Rings, D&D, like just like nerding out is fantastic. Coming across to, other people, Ellen, Kayla, you guys are athletes. I love to run. I miss it, and I'm looking forward to getting back in that. So hearing your stories is everything. Dr. Toombs, I live for medicine, and coming across physicians, especially within the POC community that are plant-based and so knowledgeable, is everything, because I found a pediatrician for my little ones, and she is Black, and I would never look back. She's been amazing. So diversity here, I am the different one out, and just in terms of the niche, but it doesn't mean that we don't have a common ground, common connections in something. And that's what, if you find diverse groups and you can all connect, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So
I love that.
Thanks.
How about you, Kayla? How
I love that.
have you felt the need to cultivate more vegan friends, and or if so, how do you go about that?
Yeah. I haven't really looked for vegan friends, but I have developed a community of vegan athletes or endurance athletes, mostly runners, just through my business ventures, which has been really cool. And I've met a lot of people through there that are vegan, and sometimes they're vegan, not necessarily athletes, which has been really cool, or vice versa. Which has also been really cool. So yeah, but I think a lot to like friends wise, probably I have more friends that are non-vegans and are more in the healthcare field. I feel like, at least as an adult, as I've made friends, have been more like physical therapists or other dietitians or doing sort of the similar work. Even if our niches are different, we still have that common, relation of like, wanting to help others really in our like field. So but I think I would say probably most of, honestly, my friends have not really been vegan. But where else have I met people? Oh, I love volunteering for, I volunteer for this farm sanctuary because I just love to see the animals. And, we just spend a day there doing volunteer work, and then we get to go on a tour and see all the animals. I just love doing that, to just be around similar people as to have the similar beliefs as I do. But that has actually been fun to go to and just meet others. And I'm like, oh, this would be, I haven't really met anyone that I've really been like continued on, like kind of made friends really, but it's kind of been cool to feel like, oh, this could be a good place to really meet friends in the future.
Oh my God. And Helene, before she goes. And Helene, who I've known for several years, who I met through another friend, David Trotter. And at first, with her running festivals and me still, like within the next year or so, doing Goth Fest, which they just thought it was a really cool concept to do a vegan goth festival. And she was like, yeah, we're gonna work together. Yeah, we need to know each other. Yeah, I don't care, quirky, you're dark, you're perfect, let's do this. And I'm just like, we just with talking, she's been amazing. And having people with like interests, maybe not being in your niche, but having people that share the same qualities you would, and being able to have healthy debates and not, you may agree to disagree, being able to correct if, they are not in the know,
That is so important.
Yeah.
I just think thinking like, I know this is a little off topic and I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah, no problem.
I do think, like, when did we forget that it was possible to disagree with one another without annihilating one another, without really attacking someone's character and really digging in there and trying to draw blood, like I know that there are a lot of topics that are very deeply held and personal and you're passionate about. And I feel like anytime it's not about someone being oppressed, we should be able to have conversations that and debates, and to, like, I guess the point is that you're touching on something that I think is really important, and that like we've been kind of focusing on interests, and that is a huge part of how we find friends, but like deep internal, like our spirit, our characteristics, our values beyond being vegan, that is also so important to the friends that we want to attract and keep, right?
Yeah. It's very important. And it's also important to find the people who can be those that would be in sheep's clothing. Because
such a good point.
Have people who are within every community or someone who will know you would not look at something that you have been doing for a long period of time and think that you are, in regards to experience that I currently had, pompous or uptight or better because you're vegan.
Yes.
Better because you're using plant-based products, because you refuse to use products that do not harm animals. Because there are reasons. Autoimmune. My son is autoimmune. Both of them are. I am as well. So don't assume that if they freely buying it just to buy it or to take an Instagram shot, like, haha, look at this. No, there are reasons behind certain things. And being vegan since 16, this is not new to anybody who knows me. Even those that come across my page, you can read. I mean, I've talked about it and the reasons behind it, and the advocacy behind it, and the intersectionality, and the reasons why. It's something. Projection is a big thing. And if you, I'm trying to figure out the best way, but I really think that there are people that are in sheep's clothing. There are wolves in sheep's clothing that will take advantage or twist things. And then you'll find out that they're not a friend. Vegan, vegetarian, whatever, in any community. So it's a good thing to, just like Marla, you said, it's quality over quantity. And that more than ever means something. So
I do think it's so valuable to become educated, not obsessed, but educated on topics related to narcissism and gaslighting and that sort of thing, because I think a lot of times we're just kind of naive and innocent, or we're kind of relitigating old childhood injuries or whatever. So once we can identify it, and I think that even when you are aware, it's so pernicious and sneaky how people can undermine and harm. And I think that those of us who are vegan, a lot of us are already compassionate and empathetic and more likely to see the world through somebody else's, what they're describing as their experience. So we tend to doubt ourselves. And if somebody's telling us something about ourselves, oh, you did this to hurt me, or you did that, we might just take it on face value and accept it. There may be certain qualities that vegans, not to paint with too broad a brushstroke, but that we may possess that may make us more targeted by people who have ill intent, because we are kind of kinder,
Yeah, it's naturally in our nature, technically.
Yeah.
If you really want to go, because one of the words that is in our, if you want to say mission, is compassion. We are empaths. We can't look at an animal or someone or something that is breathing, watching it suffer, while people may see just the animal and just think, oh, they don't feel anything.
Right.
Being a parent, you can't look at an animal and see that they know that their baby's being taken away and they're crying. Like, I don't understand how you can't feel, or if you can't watch nature videos or National Geographic and see what the mother would do, what the father would do, what the herd, what the group does when it comes to babies, what they do with each other. So, like, sorry, that's a stim. I'm pop. I don't understand how you can't associate those.
Right.
And it's not, where, oh, we think everything too seriously or too seriously, or it's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. Everything is full circle. So to being compassionate, just and empathetic, makes us more open to and more vulnerable with people. So it's that, be very careful, because they will use that to their advantage in some manner or form. And it's
Yeah, Marla, you asked, when people kind of get to this point where we couldn't have healthy debates. And I think a lot of it does boil down to compassion. We've seen within the political realm where, folks who are in leadership have lost tact. They attack each other, and then that almost seemed to like open a lane for people to say, well, hey, if they're doing it, then yep, I can, jump on this bandwagon and do this, and I can, show how ugly I can be, which their true feelings were there all the time. but now people do seem to just, lack compassion overall, and for each other. I feel like if all of us as humans and taught our children even the same, just the basic concept of kindness and being kind and being a good human, then overall we get a lot further.
Yeah.
I notice it's worse too on social media.
Yeah, for sure.
Like everyone just feels like
You're so innocent.
right? It's so easier to like attack you. Like
It's so
I feel like I'm
easy.
a really nice person, and I've been so attacked for putting up any. Like what did I do? I sent it to Helene. Actually, it was like, I cannot believe this post got 200 comments, and most of them were all attacking me on how I was saying something about how vegan was being compassionate, but they thought I was saying something. They took it the other way of like me, attacking non-vegans. And I was like, whoa, no, that's not how I was like saying it.
People can really go off to
yeah,
the races.
kiddos,
Yeah.
That's my is here.
Yeah, Kayla, one of my highest commented posts too has been one where I talked about no keto, because about how people who typically go keto eat these heavily animal-based, high saturated fat diets, and there came out of the woodwork the people, oh, I eat grass-fed, or or this or that or the other, and that, and there came the
I hear that all the
comments.
time. Yeah, like, well, I'm doing good. I do, grass fed. I'm like, well, not the same thing.
Right.
You'll get like early on. That's the best thing about like the block and delete and buttons. But like earlier on, I got a lot of hateful comments because of the outer representation of myself, as if you could not be vegan, as if there was some big smear against whatever the poster child's or children's not should be for veganism. And they were hateful, like they were very hateful. And the first thing to do that I want to do is to say something, but I would go and post something meaningful in like an overall message. Now, people that would read it would be like, who is the page? What is their name? Their dental record? And I'm like, we're not going to go to war. You can be bigger than them, because they're not being what they're supposed to be. They need to go back and reflect, because you are not what a vegan is supposed to be. Now, when I get any comments like on TikTok, which you can get them, they're bad there on TikTok, but you can remove them. But there are so many memes, and there's a phrase that they say, which is, oh, you thought you ate that. And then they look stupid. Like, you thought you ate that. You thought you ate with that comment, right? You thought you ate coming at me. Like, you really thought you did something. That's what that means. You really thought you offended me. Oh, clap, clap, clap. And then they would not say anything, because you're like, I'm waiting for a rebuttal. Or you can literally hit them without going so far below the belt, but then approach them like, oh, okay, I know you probably expected for me to cry. Or I'll say, I'm clutching my invisible pearls and I'm shocked and I don't know what to do with my life now. And they won't respond back. And I'm like, nice try. Because you're angry and you're looking at it, but you're like, the world is on fire. You want to be stupid. I'm not going that route with you.
I feel like there are people who are just profoundly unsatisfied in their lives, and bizarrely they get their jollies trolling and trying to ruin someone's day. And I actually just wrote about that kind of personality. They do a lot of harm. So I'm not saying feel compassion for them, because I feel like they create so much destruction. But at the same time, I do reserve the right to pity them, because imagine how sad that life is. That you're out there looking to try to harm, that you're out there trying to make someone feel bad about themselves, like, I mean, I think, Sovereign, this was a little aside, how, the person who was, directing all this animus toward you, because you were buying vegan and plant-based. products.
I feel a lot of times that people, no matter what, you can say nothing, you can actually even have no internal anything toward them. And people just get so reactive around shame, even if it's not something you're projecting at all. It's just the way you're living your life, you know? And there's only so much you can do about that. Like if you're shaming someone, if you're saying you're a bad person because this or that, there's something you can do something about. But if you're just living your life freely, unapologetically, just minding your own business, though, that's on them, and I know it's hard because like people can get very, very nasty in shame spirals, and like, what are you gonna do? Like, you didn't cause it, you didn't put accelerant on it, you just lived your life. I have no idea. Like,
There's other falsehoods that are involved with this person that they're saying against me. But hold on. Okay. That was something that was an issue. What was that? Anything in terms of, it's not, if someone's going to misinterpret it, think it's, oh, you turned on a switch. Again, it's been years. It's been since I have been in my teens. I have children that I raise vegan. I have done a lot of research. A lot. I mean, I will speak out and advocate for doing it right. Everybody's body is different. Okay. Yes, honey. I get enraged when you come across where the parents will just give their children plant milk. I'm like, that's not what you do if you're trying to raise it. That's when you're like, I'm doing it as a trend that can affect and harm and take the life of a child. We researched. I talked about it with my spouse, and we agreed. We absolutely agreed. It was also talking to plant-based pediatricians. It was talking with my OBGYN. This is not like I'm going to go in here and then it's going to be for likes and snaps and chats and whatnot and no. This was something that's very important, and it was something that was getting a lot of thought. And, it goes beyond, and then it's for the advocacy part. I was beyond baffled because being vegan doesn't make you spoiled. You're not a snob. I've seen snobby vegans. I'm not someone who brags, but I can confirm that I'm not, because who wants to be around someone who is?
Right.
So I was just completely baffled because it was very hurtful in the phrasing that was used, and just didn't understand. Along with being ableism as well. It was something. So getting back to the topic on hand about friends, I think I need to read more. It's okay to read people more.
Right.
Agreeing to say, you're my friend. Be it a couple months, be it a couple years. Just keep reading them.
Right.
Because you never know when they will flip a crazy switch and show you themselves. Wolves in sheep's clothing. And that goes in every
every part of society, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also, like, it's not even just online, and recognizing, like, being cognizant of the person on the receiving end of your comment, like that person might suffer from depression or whatever, and that's another layer of why I have so much trouble making friends, because I do suffer from depression, and I go into hiding, and there's times you're not going to hear from me, and people just like don't talk to me. They just, and they don't like either, some people do know, some people might not know, but they don't even check in to see, why did Kelly go away? Why has she just disappeared or whatever? And You know,
Yes.
never, right? Because I don't put my life out on social media. I don't say like when my dad passed or my
Right.
passed or Ray's mom passed. Like I didn't put that out to like, this is what I'm dealing with, right? Like I just go away, right? And so, but it's so difficult, like because I did step away from the activist community, and like Ray would show up and they'd be like, oh well, where's Kelly? Like that my value was only as an activist, and like how dare I take time for personal healing, or whatever, right? So it's just like another layer, like Sovereign, like you have chronic illness and you're on autism, and like people who if you don't either relate or want to understand and relate to something like that, like you suffer from depression or chronic illness or whatever, like it's difficult to maintain friends.
It's extremely difficult because they don't necessarily care. And I'm not shy about talking about my mental illness. I'm not shy about talking what it is with life as an autistic adult. Having two autistic children, there's the beauties that you find in all of it, but there's also the really, really, really hard to deal with parts. And it's not what sometimes on TikTok people paint autism to be a great thing. And yeah, there are some aspects where you may find things as a superpower. It's not easy. We have very difficult times processing things, or it takes a lot. We'll process, and people think that we are either coming across as having an attitude, or we are just, sometimes we can be very blunt, or we cannot respond how you want us to respond. And with suffering from depression and things like that growing up, and I have anxiety, I have ADHD, when things are overwhelming or overstimulating, I withdraw. Like, if I'm going through so much, like so many things in regards to like what happened with the hospital and the coma incident and going through the divorce, I'm a writer, so I did post something to update but didn't share everything. I had to do that in silence with myself, and it killed. But I was like, I don't know who to talk to, because you feel like you're a burden to people. Growing up, that's how I was made to feel. So your feelings are invalid. You just kind of cry or scream or shout into the void. And then you have to turn it off and go about being a parent or go about doing things while you are dying inside. So people don't know what you are going through. And then when they make comments or refuse to click and understand, it hurts even more. So I agree absolutely with Kelly. Check in and see how people are doing. Just even saying, hey, and don't get offended if we don't respond, because we don't know where to tread. Do we release everything because we feel we're unloading and we don't want to unload everything on you? Or do we draw back and then you get mad because we don't tell you what is going on? And I have been yelled at by friends, like, why did you not tell us this? To the point I was apologizing and crying because I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I understand you have lives. I don't want to burden or empath. And they're like, you're not a burden. I'm like, I don't know if that's true. Like it's complex. So
I have to say, I have so much, so I don't have depression. I definitely have anxiety, but I feel like that's something I can live with. But with depression, I have multiple friends who have chronic depression. I have so much, I don't want to say empathy because that's like boosting me, but that's kind of how I feel. It's just like, I am in awe of what depressed people, how strong. I know that's like a problematic word, but just like what you are saddled with is so immense. And I think that part of it with people who don't suffer from depression is a misunderstanding of what depression is and thinking of it as sadness rather than a much more complex and deep issue that permeates every aspect of your life. And I kind of wish that it was like a coat people could put on and they could feel it and understand it, because like that's how I feel about anxiety. It's just like anxiety is incredibly irrational.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, but it's like telling a depressed person, you know, what do you have to be depressed about? You've got kids, you've got this house, you've got that, you know, people just don't understand. And it's the same thing. You can't reason with anxiety. That's why it's such a problem. That's why it's so stubborn, you know. But so my point is one is I have so much empathy for people with depression because I've you know, I've had my moments here or there, but I wouldn't ever, you know, say I've been depressed. I know that what you guys are carrying is so massive. And all I can feel in my heart is just like, I wish I could relieve it. I wish I could just make it go away. And the second thing is that, I don't even remember what my second point is, but just that I just wish people had a little more understanding. And depression is not something that anyone can control. It's like if we could look at it like it's the physiological issue that it is, that is about hormones, that is about brain chemistry, that is about these various other things. Oh, I know what I was going to say. There's this concept in being a caregiver of someone who is very sick. Of if you are a loved one, if you're a friend or family member outside of that caregiving household, you don't ever dump in. You don't ever say, why didn't you get in touch with me? Why didn't you update me? Why didn't you tell me what you needed? You don't dump in to the people who are the most affected by this sickness. You dump out. So if there's, so like you think of it like, so there's a nucleus in the middle of the very sick person, and next to the very sick person is his immediate caregiver or caregivers and immediate family. And then it radiates out. So like maybe it might be a cousin, maybe it might be a friend, maybe it might be a coworker. So the point is, don't ever dump in. Don't ever dump in on people who are depressed. Don't dump in on people who are struggling with illness. Dump out. Because the people who are, you know, going through depression, going through illness, they don't need any more burden on them. So like a little thing you can do to relieve some of that might be just to send a quick text and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. I love you. Let me know if I can call you. Let me know anything I can do. Be specific about it. Say, can I drop off some groceries? Say, can I help do some laundry? Say, do you have time in a couple weeks? Say whatever it is. But the point is, like, if you're not grappling, that's how we sustain friendships. That's how we nurture longevity in our friendships, is to just do these little gestures. They don't have, they shouldn't be a lot. They should just be like quick little messages. You know what I'm saying?
And they mean the world. Someone out of the whole thing that occurred recently is now someone I'm happy, and this is not that other person, but the person who I met via this person, who is absolutely mortified by what happened, who I'm very now glad to call a friend, because through all of this, she was like, how are you? Checking on you and the babies. How are you guys doing? Did you eat? I'm going to be honest, she's former military. She's like, did you eat? Did you guys eat? Are you okay?
Everyone needs a Jewish grandma.
She's like, are you doing this? She's like, hey, I'm going to show you this. And it just happens to be that she herself is a mother of 2 children who are on the spectrum. And she herself suffers with the same things that I do. And again, we are radars we are beacons. We kind of it's another. I don't know what it's not a gaydar. We know how we find each other. So try to find out what to name this one here. But she would describe something, and it's saying I relate and meaning it, and knowing that we can time out, we can disassociate.
No strings attached.
Yes.
Right?
And so knowing that it's okay even just to send a message or think, and not attacking if we wouldn't, or saying the most common, well, everybody's going through something. I don't hear that, because we're not going through the same thing. We don't process the aftermath of that consequence or that collision. Just because you walked off like, hey, everything's fine, is burning up behind me, doesn't mean I'm sitting there that I'm going to have the same effect. I could be just crumbling underneath the weight of what you're thinking and the smoke bearing down. And it's just, and she's really cool because she's like, hey, guess what? This is vegan. Like she'll show me. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Or she's like, she wants to know more and she gardens and it's just like, oh my God. And she happens to be in the alt subculture. We all seem to fall in there. And because we can relate to each other. And, from Marla and Helene and other people that were just checking in, because if you don't let yourself be vulnerable to share stories, you can't have people connect. And the most thing that you just want is for people to connect and to know that they're seen, they're heard, and they're not alone. This was a very dark time.
Yeah, very isolating.
Very isolating and very lonely. And they just put out a study about loneliness is like can age you. Like it's like 8 years or something like that of being alone. It can take years off your life because you don't have that connection and bond. And it's check up on people.
Yeah.
We're not everybody's not invincible. We may have to
exactly. And
but
anything can happen to anyone at any time. So don't think that because it hasn't happened to you out there that it won't, and I mean, the point is that we shouldn't have to experience suffering to have compassion for it, right? We shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to understand that a human is suffering, and that's not okay. So those are the friends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lost Dr. Toombs.
We did. Should we conclude or wrap up? So what I just kind of to summarize everything, I thought I would just summarize everything that we talked about today, real short and sweet, as it sounds like we all agree that vegans don't always have to all be friends because we're all diverse. And to be a good friend, be more compassionate to other people, not just animals, but to our people in general as well. Anyone have anything else to add?
No, it seems like the takeaway is that we are supposed to be friends with all vegans. Yeah, right? Just kidding. Right.
No, I completely agree. We can't be friends with all vegans, but we find those that are compassionate. Find those that you click with. You're not going to click with everybody, but it's okay not to be friends with every vegan. Find your people. Exactly. Find your people. Find those with common interest. Find those with the same mindset as you. Let's just be really, really honest. Find those that are intersectional.
Right.
That are intersectional. There you go. Yes.
So we have next week off, I believe, because next week is May already. And so we won't be here next week. We'll be doing whatever. So I guess we'll see everyone in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Before we go, would you guys mind saying happy birthday to Amma? He will be 10 on the 3rd of May.
Happy birthday!
That was a little high pitched, I know. I'm really never done that. Happy birthday, sweetie.
It's so big.
Aw.
Is he your older one or your
Oldest.
Yeah.
The youngest is 9. He just turned 9 in March. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, baby.
Thank you. In closing, I've told them the same thing. Make friends. Intersect while you're little. But kids are actually, and I'll say this quickly, but kids are the ones, the future is brighter.
Mhm.
Gen A, Gen Z, the future is brighter because
Absolutely.
they don't see what millennial parents and Gen Xers who are, we're the rebels, but we're raising a new generation to not be what we experienced. It's so much brighter from what I've seen.
They are beautiful aliens.
Yeah.
I love you all.
Bye. Bye. Thanks for joining.